Israel's war on the Palestinian people, in which so far around 25,000 are dead, with many more injured to the extent of their inability to fully participate in nation building if they are still alive, has given time for everyone to realize that the red-lined boundaries that most feared to cross never really existed. The idea of might is right was trashed when nuclear weapons technology and resources for their development were made available by the haves to their closest allies, not realizing that friendships are strategic and frail at the best of times. This strategy to bring a balance of power to regions actually had the opposite effect, as it could only be effective with complete control of a nation's polity by creating a dependency of the weaker on the benevolent, a proxy in other terms. Unfortunately, the subcontinent faced a tragedy very similar to that of the Israel-Palestinian conflict, with the last British government of India dividing India by ethnicity and religion and creating the Republic of Pakistan. Pakistan, since its creation, while being a close ally of the West, has more, like Israel, made many of its neighbors notice its independent thinking on territorial rights, governance, terrorism, and relationships with its neighbors on all sides of its borders. Iran, while supporting freedom fighters in the Middle East, has taken upon itself, much like the Israelis supported by the Americans, to remove the non-state groups that oppose its government from the Baluchistan region in southern Pakistan, while the Pakistani government has retaliated by taking military action against Baluchi freedom fighters based on the border, but in Iran. Since Pakistan's independence in 1947, its governments have successfully been manipulated by its military and intelligence services that serve as the arm of the highest bidder and have been the root cause of Pakistan's instability and its inability to establish a people's representative democracy, while strategically it could have been the most dynamic business hub, having unfettered access to markets by sea, road, and air. Countries neighboring Pakistan could see this current period as its most vulnerable, as politically and economically the country's instability is glaringly evident, which might seed the thought of taking back what was originally theirs. As the war against terrorism along the Pak-Iran border gains ground, Pakistan, as America's proxy in Southeast Asia, might just be convinced to follow Israel's lead in ethnic cleansing the regions in Iran that it occupies, while Iran supports the freedom of the Baluchis in Pakistan. The Afghan Taliban, having recently faced the onslaught of refugees returning home from camps in Pakistan, will action to take back the territory it lost to Pakistan, while India might support the liberation of Azad Kashmir from Pakistan occupation and go further to liberate and absorb territories like the Sindh and Punjab provinces. This strategy does not discount the interests of China, Russia, and other players in the region that have their eyes on the natural resources of this part of the Indo-Gangetic Plain. It's been just a few days since the conflict started at the Pak-Iranian border, using missiles and air raids on locations where the freedom fighter terrorists are believed to reside. If the relationship between Pakistan and Iran is as strong as some believe, then the governments may complement each other's intentions and work together to clear the area of troublesome radicalization. However, if either side is unable to sustain a prolonged ground-level conflict, then the best deterrent will be to use limited-impact nuclear weapons. I truly thought that the Third World War would focus on the Middle East and be contained once a permanent ceasefire was declared, and will breathe a sigh of relief when, or if, the ICJ and United Nations force that conclusion, However, the growing conflict on the Pak-Iran border reminds me of Nevil Shute's novel On the Beach, in which he predicts the final war on earth will be started in South Asia. I sincerely hope that any country under the threat of aggression would first try to resolve the issue diplomatically, maybe through a mediator, after which they could proceed using conventional warfare methods and not press the button to trigger a nuclear war. Pakistan has been in the unfortunate position of linking its failures to its hatred of everything Indian, which has been its mantra since its creation in 1947. Repeated efforts at improving its relations with its neighbors have been negated by the military and intelligence services that have not supported the elected government's mandate, as they have always served Western interests in Asia, which, as per the trend, will continue as long as Pakistan's economy stagnates and remains dependent on IMF dole.